In January of 2017, I was in the Xbone store one day looking for something new to play. I was starting to grow tired of primarily playing shooters. There was a sale going on for anime and anime inspired games. One of the first games I saw was DMC Devil May Cry. I remembered my cousin playing it back in 2013 and saying that he liked the music and level design. After looking up gameplay, I was convinced that this game was for me. Since this was my first character action game, I had a lot of trouble. I struggled to memorize all the different combos, I got hit often, and I had difficulty taking down certain enemies. Despite all of that, I was having fun. The combat was incredibly satisfying, the music fit the tone of the game perfectly, and I liked the protagonist. I found Reboot Dante relatable due to the fact that everyone saw him as the bad guy when in reality he wasn't. High school was the worst time in my life and I hated absolutely everything about it. I rarely did my homework because I would be so exhausted just being there, and I was absent like once every 2 weeks. However, when I was in class, I did all my work, never talked or interrupted anyone. Despite that, some of my teachers acted like I was some sort of delinquent. I tried not to let their attitudes towards me affect me, but sometimes I couldn't help but feel like I did something horribly wrong. I know that the game and the characters aren't the best, especially when compared to the original series, but I'll always appreciate the reboot because it helped me get through a shitty time and it's what got me into the other games. After hearing how DMC4 was way better than the reboot, I decided to give it a shot. My initial experience was terrible and I hated it. I didn't like the cheesiness of the characters, I hated the fixed camera, the combat felt sluggish, I didn't like how you had to lock on to perform certain moves, the bosses were a pain in the ass to fight, and I thought the level design was terrible. I gave up twice for months due to having to switch characters in the middle of the game and because of the confusing level design. 6 months after purchasing the game, I finally beat it. It wasn't until I came across a Combo Mad video of DMC4 that made me realize that I was an idiot and that I barely scratched the surface of the game. I was completely blown away by the fact that I was watching gameplay and not a scene from an animated show or movie. Those combo videos gave me motivation to get better at the game, and that's where my love for the original series really started. It took a while for me to fully learn how to properly play Nero and Dante, but it didn't take long for me to start liking them as characters. At first I thought they were trying really hard to be cool, and as a result came off unintentionally cheesy, and that's ironic because that's exactly what the reboot is. Dante, Nero, and DMC as a whole doesn't take itself serious, and that's what ultimately makes it fun and cool. I don't know why it took me so long to realize that DMC revels in its cheesiness, and now that I've accepted the cheese, Dante and Nero have become some of my favorite characters of all time. Since I liked Devil May Cry 4 so much, I decided to buy the HD collection to experience what many believe, including me, is the best game in the series and one of the greatest games of all time, Devil May Cry 3. It's got an incredible story, the best soundtrack in the series, and fantastic gameplay. This game really feels like it was ahead of its time because 14 years later, it still holds up pretty well. I wish I played this game first because it would have allowed me to understand what made Devil May Cry as a series so good. It's also got Lady, who is the best girl. In late 2017, I started to get upset by the fact that Devil May Cry was more than likely dead. The last things that were released were the special editions of DMC4 and the reboot, which was 2 years ago at the time. On March 13th, 2018, Capcom released the DMC HD collection for next-gen consoles and the trailer for the Monster Hunter World and DMC collaboration event. It was at this point I had a good feeling that they were bringing Devil May Cry back. A couple of days before E3, I remember seeing a post on the DMC subreddit that Capcom added the DevilMayCry5.com domain to their servers, which pretty much confirmed my suspicions. On June 10th, while watching E3 live, I saw a black dude smoking a cigar, soldiers being killed by these bloodborne looking creatures, tentacles impaling people, and fountains of blood spraying all over this Cyclops dude, and I remember thinking to myself, this is probably a new IP. It looks awesome. Then, Capcom appeared on the screen, and I nearly flipped out because I knew it was Devil May Cry. At first, I was confused because I didn't know whether that was Reboot Dante or Nero until I saw the sword rev. I had the biggest smile on my face watching that trailer because it was like a dream come true. You know, I've never been more passionate and excited for a game before, which really says something because I've only been playing DMC for a little over 2 years. I can't imagine what longtime fans felt when they saw that trailer. This is why I love Devil May Cry, and here's to hoping that DMC 5 exceeds our expectations.